Welcome everybody to the show. We have a special guest, pro trader Alessio Rastani. For those of you who are living under a rock and maybe don't know Alessio, he's an absolute gem. You absolutely have to go to follow his channel. He really focuses on education, much like our channel. He's not trying to shill a bunch of projects or coins. He's really actually trying to help people through education, which we really appreciate. He has over 38 million views on YouTube. You can check his channel out in the link below. We will link it and we'll pin a comment with his channel link as well. Alessio, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, and I appreciate the very complimentary introduction, and that means a lot. Thank you. I mean, you're good too, Steve. I've seen your comments. I've not met you before, but I've seen you commenting on my videos before, and thanks for the support. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And thanks for having me on your show as well.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. What we would like to talk about today is obviously the Bitcoin bear market. What are your thoughts? And I would love towards the end of the video to get into some price targets.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for the introduction at the beginning. The thing is, I do my best to give an honest and reliable analysis. The thing is, we're human beings, and unfortunately, we get it wrong a few times too. So I was wrong on my view on XRP. I thought we could continue the uptrend. And as far as Bitcoin is concerned, I thought that the uptrend, put it this way, I didn't think that we're going to break below 30K this year. And I think it's because in March, when Bitcoin was trying at least to attempt to take out the prior highs that it made. When I say prior highs, I'm talking about, I don't mean necessarily the highs we made last year, but some resistance. I think the resistance was like 48, 50K. So maybe the highs of December. So basically what I'm trying to say is, when I saw in March that Bitcoin was trying to get above, and actually it did at some point get above 40, I think I managed to get to about 47, 48 approximately there. But it failed. But at that point, I really thought that Bitcoin could continue the uptrend, go higher, and I didn't think we're going to go into I didn't think we're going to take out support at about 30K. So I was wrong about that. And it's important to actually mention that, because I'm not trying to pretend that I get everything right. I get it wrong a few times too. And so I didn't think that the drop below 30K was a high probability in my view. But I did say at the time that, look, one thing I did mention to our members, and also I mentioned in my recent video, I said, look, if we fall below 37K was my line in the sand. And I say, if we fall below 37K, that's it, we're going low. So that was always a key level that I've been watching for the last several weeks and months. And I kept repeating this to our members. Look, I said, if we get below 37K, that's it, we're going down to 30, maybe even to 27K. And which we did, we hit to 27K, and we actually fell to 25K recently. Now, keeping it simple, and I don't want to ramble on here, but I think the big question everyone's asking is this the bottom? Is this it? To be honest with you, I don't know, and I think it's too early to even speculate, or even, I think it's too early at this present moment. It could be the bottom, but I don't yet have a sign of an uptrend to give you a high probability of that. And I think maybe, again, as I said before, I think it's too soon. You've had this massive spike down. But at the present, that's all we have. We've got a massive spike down to support like 27, 25K. But I don't yet see the signs of an impulsive rally. When I say impulsive, I'm talking about Elliott waves. What I mean by that is I don't yet see a 5-wave move to the upside, or at least a sign of an uptrend to give me a high probability that we've bottomed. And I think if Bitcoin, put it this way, again, I think it's too soon, but let's see what happens in the next few weeks. I think what's happened so far as we're making this video today is Bitcoin has had a little of a bounce. We had a bounce back, retraced some of that drop we had recently. We've retraced it a little bit. I think we went to as far as high as 30, 31K approximately there. What we haven't done is taken out resistance. So for example, if Bitcoin can take out the this week's high, which I think was about, I have to check my chart, but I think the week's high was about 31,000. I'll just double check that with my chart here. Maybe you can confirm that, Steve.
Yeah.
I can't see it right now, but
3031.
Yeah. I think if we can take out the week's high, about 31,070 approximately there, then I think we close above that. It may put the bulls temporarily in control. And I say temporarily because, again, I think it's too soon because a lot of things can happen here. One other thing that I'm watching here is we have an open chart gap, or some people may call it a CME gap, and the chart gap is in the range of 36,000 to 34,000 approximately there. So I think if Bitcoin manages to get above and close that gap and get above that level, again, above 36K, which I know is quite a distance, but I think if we can get above that 36K level, it would increase the confidence that we're potentially bottoming here. Now, I know some people don't like that answer because they say, well, that's quite a far distance to go, isn't it? 35, 36. By that time, you've left some of the money on the table here. Because I know some people want to pick the exact bottom. But I don't think that's necessarily the right approach to trading or analysis. Some people want the exact bottom or as near as possible. The problem is that if you want to do that, then you're also going to take big risks as well. So what I'm trying to say is, look, at the moment, I don't see the signs of an uptrend. I don't see the signs of a higher high, a higher low, or a higher high. I think, now here's the thing, we've made this sharp drop, again, as I said before, we've made this sharp drop into the 27, 25K. We bounced a little bit to 31, and then we retraced a little bit. We retraced down to about, I think the low of this week was about 28,700 approximately. I think if Bitcoin can take out the week's high, you could argue you have a small uptrend, tiny little higher high, a higher low, and a small higher high on maybe on an hourly chart or a 4-hour chart. You can argue that. On a daily chart, you can say that it's trying to stabilize you, okay? But I think it's still a bit too early for me to say that this is an uptrend. It doesn't look to me like an uptrend yet. Let's see what happens. If we can take out the week's high near 31,000, 31,070, it could put the bulls in control a little bit, and especially be close above that. And also, I would say if we can stay above 26K, 26,500. Why? Because 26,500 is the 78.6% Fibonacci retracement of that entire bounce, the week's bounce. Okay, so watch those levels, watch 26,500. And because if that level breaks, then you're probably looking at another drop, maybe down to the 200 weekly moving average, which is a level a lot of people are paying attention to. That may not be a good thing, by the way. But I think if we fall below 26,500, and especially if we take out the month's lows, the lows we made near 25K, then we're probably looking at, the weekly 200 moving average, which is approximately near 22K. And we may even go down to 20K. Okay. Now, that's what I'm going to say so far. Go ahead.
What would you say to folks that this is their first bear market? This is their first time looking at their portfolio and it's absolutely destroyed. They're feeling the tense pressure. They're feeling the anxiety. And what would you say to them? Because their thought process now is, I should sell and buy back when it goes lower. And you having a lot of experience in trading, we know that that's a trap. What would you say to folks that have that mindset? This is their first time dealing with this type of anxiety.
It's a good question, Steve. I like that question. Well, I mean, if you can recall, I don't know how many people can recall the 2017, 2018 bear market. If people can remember that, I would say try and learn some of the lessons from that bear market, or even the one previous to that, back in the year 2014, 13 or 14. But if it's their first time, okay. But even if it's not your first time, your second time, you're probably going through similar emotions. So what I would say to them is this: the fear can certainly mount. And I would say right now is a good time to start planning. Before the market gets more volatility, try not to be swayed by emotion. And I think it's a cliche. Everyone's heard this cliche. Oh, try not to get too emotional. It's not easy. It's very easy to say it. It's not easy actually doing it. And let me just say that even myself, even other people who've been doing this for years, we can get emotional. We can certainly make mistakes and we can certainly, it's possible for anybody to lose their cool, lose their sense of planning, and fall into a sense of emotion. What I would say is to people who are going through the first time through the bear market or the second time, focus on what is the worst case scenario. Now, the worst case scenario may not happen for you. Maybe it won't happen, but let's imagine it did. What are you going to do? Try and imagine what is your plan to limit risk now, because there's no point trying to worry about it after it happens. Let me just give an example. I was listening to an interview with a trader, and he's actually quite a well-known trader, and he was saying, I think his name is Gareth Soloway, and he made an interesting point. He said that he's expecting Bitcoin to go to 12K. Now it might not, but he said it could well happen. His lower target for Bitcoin was 12,000, based on symmetrical projection. Now that's fine. He may well be right. We don't know. Anybody, again, he's a good guy. I respect him, but he might be wrong. He might be right. What I'm saying is this: what if the worst case scenario happened? What if Bitcoin fell below 20K? Because I think a lot of people are expecting 20K to hold. And I think a lot of people out there are expecting 200 weekly moving average to hold as well. That's about 22K. The question you should be asking is, well, what if they don't hold? Because everybody's looking at those levels, right? Almost everybody out there is. I actually put out a poll, Steve. I don't know if you saw it. I put out a poll and I said, if Bitcoin falls below 20K, goes to 20K or lower, how are you going to feel? 63% voted it's going to make them happy and delighted, because for them it's an opportunity. But a smaller percentage said they might feel a little bit of panic. I think that was about 10% who said that. And about 16% said they're going to feel no emotion whatsoever, which hard to believe, really. I find that very hard to believe. But I think that a lot of people, 63%, are feeling happy about that possibility, because I think the way they're seeing it is, if it goes below 20K or towards 20K, that's going to be for them, it's going to be a buying opportunity. That's the way they're seeing it. And it may well be. It may well be a buying opportunity. I think it is, to be honest with you. But the question is, I think the question you're asking me, Steve, what if you're holding Bitcoin and you see Bitcoin falling lower, assuming it hasn't bottomed already? Well, I would say is, okay, imagine that in your mind, imagine that scenario for real. The question is, what is your plan? If your plan is to hold for the long term, then stick to your plan. If your plan is really to hodl and hold for the long term, then stick to your plan. If you hold a long-term view, in other words, you should not be swayed. You should not allow short-term or medium-term volatility and movements to move you away from your plan. Okay, especially if the amount you're risking is relatively small and it's not going to harm you financially, then just stick with your long-term plan. Okay, don't allow this volatility. And that also means this, by the way. That also means you need to accept the worst-case scenario too. So when I say stick to your plan, I mean, imagine the worst-case situation happens and Bitcoin goes all the way. Let's say it goes to the projection that Gareth made, 12K. How are you going to feel when that happens? I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to go to 12K. I actually doubt that personally. But let's say it fell below 20K, because everybody's thinking 20K is going to hold. What if it doesn't? What if it goes to 17, 18? What if it goes to lower than that? How are you going to feel? What are you going to do in the situation? Are you going to just pull the plug and get out? So some people are going to do that. I think a lot of people are going to do that. I think they're going to, if Bitcoin fell below the level they expect, so I can imagine a lot of folks out there are just going to pull the plug, say, that's it, I've had enough. Because there's a limit to how much we can, who was it who said this? I think it was a book. There's a book out there. I think it's from Kahneman, right? Daniel Kahneman. And he said the reason why a lot of people sell is because they just can't stand the pain. The pain everybody has a threshold for pain. And below that level, people just can't take it, because they're going to think, oh my God, all my money is going to disappear. All the profits are going to disappear. And I'm going to go into a loss. And they watch the TV, they watch the news, they watch social media. And that makes it even worse. Oh, that's another thing. Switch off the news.
Yes.
I don't pay attention to any news. By news, I'm talking about the mainstream stuff, especially mainstream news. And also, I would say to some extent, even social and financial news. I don't really care about that, because all they do is they exacerbate the fear. By all means, watch the people that you trust or the people that you respect, like yourself, Steve. By all means, watch videos by them. But all the same, nevertheless, stick to your plan. Because sometimes your respected analyst, sometimes the analyst, your favorite analyst, will say something that goes against your plan. By all means, take that into account. Maybe they have a point. At the end of the day, you got to stick to your plan. If your plan is to hold for the long term, stick with it. And if your plan is, well, look, I don't want to hold beyond a certain level, I don't want to lose beyond this level, then stick to that as well. Have a stop loss in place. Put a stop loss at that point. So, for example, sorry, I won't talk for too long, Steve, but we know we have a support at the lows we made recently, 25K, or even 26K if you want. We know that's a support. We know if price falls below that, we know there may be an extension lower. There might be another further drop, maybe to lower levels, unless it's a false break. So what I would say is, okay, people can put a stop loss right underneath the lows we made this month. So if it falls below that, then you're not going to lose more than you were planning to, okay? Now people say, okay, big shot. What if it falls below 25 and then quickly goes back up again, a false break or whips up? Well, fine, get back in again. Like, let's say Bitcoin drops temporarily below 20, 26, 25. And then quickly within a day or two goes back, like a whipsaw move, goes back above 26, 27K. Okay, so what? Get back in. It's not going to stop you. You only get back in, pay the transaction fee or whatever it is, and get back in. Who cares? It's not like I'm not saying you should get out forever. At least you're limiting risk, but you have the option to get back in if you're seeing price doing something different than you expect.
That's great. I'm glad you mentioned a plan, because a plan is what a lot of beginner traders don't have. They buy. Exactly. And then they have no idea when they're going to get out. They have no idea when they're going to add to the position. And then it becomes just emotion based. And that's where people get really hurt. So, yes, a plan.
Yeah, that's another thing, Steve, because time after time, all the studies show that the biggest enemy you have, your biggest enemy is not the price of Bitcoin or the market. It's not the market's not enemy. The market doesn't care about you or anybody. The market, and I say market, I mean Bitcoin and anything, stock markets even. Price action, the market does not care about our plan, my plan, your plan, anybody's plan. It will do its thing. The only thing you can do, the only thing you can control is, again, I would say your decision making, when are you going to enter, when are you going to sell, when are you going to get out, and also how much you buy and how much you sell. So for example, if Bitcoin were to take your stop loss out, you don't have to sell everything. You can just say, okay, I'm going to get out by half a position here. I'm going to keep a remaining position open. Okay, that's if your trading style is like that. If you're what I'm saying here will not suit everybody. Some people will say, no, I'm going to hold. Fine, stick to your plan then. Another thing that people could do, and this is something I do in my own trading, is I hedge my position. So what I mean by that is, if I'm worried the price is going to drop, what I'll do is, if the price has a bounce or rally into a key level of resistance, I do this mostly with stock markets, not so much with Bitcoin. But what a trader may do is, if a rally occurs, if a bounce occurs into a key level of resistance, that could be anything you want, moving average, previous high, whatever. If a bounce occurs to a key level of resistance with overbought conditions, the trader at that point could hedge, for example, by taking a short position. Okay, not an aggressive short position, but they could hedge with either options, puts, for example, or indeed with a short position on an ETF, for example. And again, they have to be careful there too. There are risks with that too. But that's another option, because then you have some protection. The protection is, okay, the price has moved into resistance. So if you have a short or a hedge, then if the price then rolls over and goes down, okay, you're going to lose money you're going to lose some profits on your Bitcoin position or your whatever stock or stock market position. But at least the short position, your hedge, will make up for that. Maybe even by, if not completely make up for it, but at least offset some of those losses. That's another strategy which people can look into. But again, before applying that, I would suggest that first you look into the risks of that as well, because by no means that's not risk-free. It has some risks. So anyway.
Beautiful. We'll get you out of here on this question, Alessio. So We've had Gareth on the show. I know that he's calling for 12K. We have
That's
been
Gareth
looking
Soloway
at
you're talking about, right?
yeah, Gareth Soloway. We've been looking at that 14K area for a couple months, just based on market structure on the monthly chart with the bodies of candles. There's a lot of synergy there over the years. What would be your downside target, the absolute bottom that you would see?
It's a very good question, and to be honest, I can't say I have one because it's very difficult. One of the problems with Bitcoin is that it's unlike other markets, it's a different animal. And you can have a support level, like let's say 20K or just below it. And we see Bitcoin just spikes below that level. Boom, it has these spike moves. Volatility is so strong that it's almost impossible to even have a bottom or prediction on or even an expectation on a low. I like the 12K projection. I know. I've seen the interview with Gareth where he says 12. I think he bases it on a symmetrical measured move, which is interesting. I would be delighted if he did that. I mean, if Bitcoin moves that low, that would be fantastic. I can certainly imagine that could be a great level to buy if it happens. If it happens, that is. I'm doubtful it's going to go that low. Partly because I don't think that. Well, put it that way. It's certainly possible. It's possible, but that's not my expectation. I think Bitcoin. I think what Gareth is right about, and I think this is what I think is going to happen as well. I don't think 20K is going to hold because I think a lot of people. Here's what I think I found in the comment section on my videos and also other people's videos. I've seen a lot of people are saying that 22K is going to be the bottom. That's where the 200 weekly average is. Now, the 200 weekly moving average is a level I'm watching too. But recently, because I've noticed so many comments by people mentioning that level, the 200 weekly, and the reason why the level has become famous is because crypto celebrities like Plan B, for example, have made that level very popular. They've talked about it. And so a lot of people are watching that level. And then listen, that level may hold. I don't know if it's going to hold or not. It may well repeat the same historical pattern of holding. But here's the thing, because so many people are expecting a level to hold, assuming we get there, we don't know if we're going to get there, the 200 weekly I'm talking about. My suspicion is it probably won't hold this time around because so many people are expecting it. And the more people are expecting a level to hold, like 200 weekly moving average or even 20K, there's a slight risk. But this time around, this time around, it may not hold. And so be careful. All I'm saying is just be careful because if that level doesn't hold, the question is, if 20K doesn't hold, then what are you going to do? How are you going to feel when Bitcoin goes below that? And I think it will, by the way. I actually have a suspicion, and I think there's a risk there that probably I think Bitcoin actually has to go below 20K. I think it's necessary to basically shake out the weak hands. Because if so many people are expecting 20K to hold or the 200 weekly to hold, I think to some extent Bitcoin has to go below that level just to shake everyone, just to put panic in people out, to get capitulation going. You know what I'm saying? So that's assuming, by the way, that Bitcoin hasn't already bottomed. So what I'm saying is that if Bitcoin has not bottomed and if it falls below 25 or 26K, then be very careful because then you could see the 20K, 22K levels come into play. And be very careful because the question you should ask is, what if 20K does not hold? Because that's the level everyone thinks is going to be the level that's going to be the support, the bottom. So if 20K is not the bottom and it keeps going lower, then you need to have a plan on how you're going to react and what's your behavior. Because what if you just quickly panic and freak out and sell? Okay, that's something you should be aware of. So yeah, that's personally, I mean, speaking for myself, just speaking for me, I have a stop loss in place at the lows we made, just near the lows we made in this month. Mm-hmm. So if it falls below 26 or 27, if it falls below 26K or 25K, fine, I'm out, but I'll get back in. Okay, I'll get back in. I have a plan to get back in, maybe at a lower level, or if it's a whipsaw, if it's a false break, at a reversal above, let's say, resistance. Like if it takes out 25, 26K, and then quickly reverses and goes back above, let's say, 28, 30K again, then I'll just get back in. Okay, I'll just get back in. That's my plan. I already know what I'm going to do. So, but I know that's my plan. I'm not saying everybody else should do the same thing, because not everybody's going to be on the same style, or not everyone has the same risk tolerance or the same sort of perspective. There it is.
Love it. Well, thank you, Alessio, for coming on the show. I think the key takeaways: have a plan.
Yeah.
So many people do not have a plan, and they just get overwhelmed with emotion, and then emotion takes control, and emotion
Right.
is a money killer. So have a plan. And then I thought the point you brought up with when everyone is watching a certain level, it never happens. When there's
Yeah.
always so many eyes talking about one particular level or one particular outcome. Really great advice. Alessio, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Just one thing to add.
Sure.
I mean, people might watch this video and think, okay. So Alessio and Steve are telling us don't get in at 20K or do 200 weekly. No, listen, if that's your plan, stick to your plan as well. Okay, don't let this video put you off your plan. All right, because it may well hold. Nobody knows. We can't predict the future any more than anybody. My point is, just be careful, because a lot of people are watching those levels. We're not saying change your mind. So if your plan was to buy a little bit or something at those levels, then stick with it, because they may well hold. Maybe history will repeat itself. So don't let us change your idea. Okay. All we're saying is, I'm a bit worried that so many people are watching those levels. That's all I'm saying.
Right. I think it's spot on. For me, I think one of the important thing is to look at the big picture. If you close your eyes and buy Bitcoin now, in 4 years, you will look like a superhero, because this is a market cycle. It's highly unlikely in 4 years from now, we will still be in a bear market. So another way to look at it is people are trying to time the bottom. There's no real difference between 20K and 21K or 22K or 23K or 18K 4 years from now. It'll be laughable. So
That's right.
Another thought is just avoid the emotion and like you said, stick to a plan, and then you'll be perfectly fine without having a lot of anxiety. So Alessio, it's been phenomenal to have you on the show.
Thanks very much.
Everybody, if you're not subscribed to Alessio for some odd reason, we have the link right in the description. He'll be a pinned comment as well. Alessio is a standout gem here on YouTube in the crypto space to keep you level-headed, focused on that education. Alessio, great to have
Thanks
you.
so much for having me.
Take care.